Welcome back to the 10-second runoff powered by Culture Media with your hosts Joe Mitchell, Alec Escade, and our producer, Mikey Shiazza.
Good to
Welcome
be
to
here.
the podcast, Mikey.
Oh, it's good to be here. Good to finally have a mic.
Yes, sir. Good stuff. Good stuff. Let's jump right into the preseason top 5 Heisman candidates, or I should say the top 5 Heisman odds.
Right.
Yeah, so we're looking at Caleb Williams with the best odds at plus 500. We have a tie for 2, Jaden Daniels and Quinn Ewers. I know you don't love that.
No.
At plus 1,100. And then we go number 3, Michael Penix Jr. at plus 1,200 odds. Cade Klubnik at number 4, plus 1,600 odds. And then Bo Nix plus 1,800 odds. Just before we really dive into these players, what are your thoughts there?
Well, my pick is going to be Caleb Williams, first of all.
Okay.
So I think the plus 500 is kind of fair. I mean, going back-to-back's not easy.
It's never been done.
Yeah. There's never been a back-to-back Heisman.
I don't believe so.
To me, he's as long as their record holds. And
Will you check that? Will you check that, Mikey? Has there ever been a back-to-back Heisman?
Something's telling me there has been. However, I think if anybody's going to do it, I think he's the first. He's really, really good at football.
Yeah.
That Caleb guy. The biggest key is their record, and obviously, we're going to talk about them here shortly. I think if they have 10 wins or 11 wins, I think he back to back.
Yeah, so that's the thing. What you got?
So the only person to ever win back-to-back Heisman was Archie Griffin in 1974 and 1975.
There you go. So one person ever, and it wasn't in either of our lifetimes.
Or close. Or either of my parents' lifetimes. So.
Yeah, so there you go. There you go. I don't see that happening. I think he's a great football player. Obviously, he's probably the best in the country. I don't know if his team will be good enough this year to win a Heisman for him. Now,
Really?
I know they had 2 losses last year, 3 losses after the bowl game, but
Right.
only 2 before the Heisman ceremony. So, I don't know. We'll see. And then looking at these next 2, I think you're kind of looking at the same situation. So, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Quinn Ewers. I think of those 3, Caleb Williams has the best shot.
Right.
I don't know if Jaden Daniels or Quinn Ewers or Michael Penix Jr. for that matter with Washington. I don't know if any of those 3 guys are on a team that is, going to give them the best shot to win Heisman.
You opened up a poor can of worms there.
Huh?
You think Washington has a good shot to make the playoffs?
I do.
If they make the playoffs, it's because Penix went dumb again. If he goes dumb again and they're in, that's a tough. I mean, he'll go to New York.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And I think he can do that. I think all of these guys can do that. That's why they have the odds they do. I'm just talking about if I'm going to pick the guy, I don't know if they're my first pick.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
Is your preseason Heisman pick on this list?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So here's I'll get into it in a second.
Okay.
Here's my thing here. When you look at these guys, when you look at what the Heisman Memorial Trophy is, it is supposed to be the most outstanding player in college football. That's not what it is.
Right.
Let's just get that off the table. That's not what it is. What it is who is the most outstanding player on a team that has less than 2 wins or less than 2 losses. Yeah. And that's what it's become.
Right.
Because you've seen guys like Bailey Zappi for Western Kentucky a couple years ago who balled out, had an amazing season, certainly Heisman caliber season, but he played for Western Kentucky and had several losses. Like, it's not going to happen.
But you got to think, though, there's also some merit to that, right? Like, if you're not outstanding enough to win games.
Yeah, but one player doesn't win you games.
I understand, but like a quarterback like that, like, because if you're good enough, you're gonna have a bunch of wins.
Yeah.
Like, to me. So
to some extent, but I think you're talking about a guy like potentially Jordan Travis. He's not on this list.
Right.
I think he's a guy who could have a season that is Heisman caliber worthy or have a Heisman caliber season. But if they have 3 losses, he's not going to win.
But you got to think, too, like, these are the best odds. And if we're, like, aiding to your point, you're talking about people like J.J. McCarthy or Blake Corum. Yeah. Because they'll be either the first and second best, or however you want to put it, on one of the best teams in college football.
Yeah.
They both returned. They both had Heisman odds last year. I don't know how they're not on this list. At least McCarthy.
I think there's a great shot Corum ends up on this list late in the year.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're just, it's been a long time since the running backs kind of got there. I'd say a long time, about a decade, almost a decade. I guess Derrick Henry.
That's won it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There's been running backs there in New York.
Right.
Yeah. All right, let's get more in depth on Caleb Williams here. Obviously, he won it last year. He's got plus 500 odds. Go ahead.
I mean, I think obviously he's your favorite, right, odds-wise. I think he's my favorite to win it. Again, I mean, just doing what he does, and statistically, he's going to be I think statistically he's going to end up the best quarterback in college football again. If I guess a couple of these guys don't have anything to say about it. I don't think they will. And again, I mean, it's simple as that. If you do have the best stats, like Zappy did, right, and you're on a team that's top 10, you're going to win Heisman.
Yeah.
So and I think they will be. We're going to talk about that, like I said, again, like shortly. But I mean, I think they go 2-3 losses at the most, and I think he will be the best player in college football. That's a recipe to win the Heisman.
Yeah, when you look at the stats, definitely last year, there's one guy that you could argue is pretty close. That would be Michael Penix Jr.
Yeah.
He threw for about 100 yards more than Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams threw for 4,500 yards. Michael Penix Jr. threw for 4,600.
Right.
But when you look at the touchdowns, Caleb Williams threw for 42 touchdowns and 5 picks.
Right.
Unbelievable.
I mean, that's
that's Heisman.
Yeah.
Problem is they lost. He ended up winning it. They lost the bowl game. That's 3 losses. I think if he lost the third one in the regular season, no shot.
Right. Who would have won it, though?
Would you agree?
I don't know because, I mean, you keep them Washington in 10-2?
Yeah.
You think Penix would have won it?
Well, maybe probably not.
The point is, right, who wins it that went? Stetson? Well, no, who came in second?
I think there's an argument for Stetson. I don't know. Maybe Caleb still wins it because he was so much better last year.
I think so too.
Because he was so much better last year. But I don't know. Looking at this year, it's tricky, man. They don't have an easy schedule. I don't know. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to keep Caleb Williams from going back to back. But given that there's only one precedent for that, I don't know if I can. Just history repeats itself. I don't know if I can say that he is going to win the Heisman.
Right. So who's your pick?
Well, let's work down the list, right?
Okay.
Let's look at the 2 guys with the second best odds. You're looking at Jaden Daniels and Quinn Ewers. Let's start with Quinn.
Yeah. So I'm not a huge. I mean, I've kind of been on record saying I'm not a huge fan of his. Not about him, just his game, right? I think he's wildly overrated as far as, especially having him as the tied for the second best odds for Heisman. He has shown nothing, unless you want to talk about one quarter of football against Alabama. Unless you want to talk about that. So, literally, they have 12 games and 4 per. If we take 1/48th out of his season, he has shown us nothing. So, Heisman wise. So I mean, this makes no sense. I guess. This to me has some pre-bias from high school. Oh well, look, he's kind of got his bearings there. Like, look what he did in high school. Like, now that he's got his bearings in Austin, we'll see. Like that. So that to me is what this is.
I don't know. You're looking at one of the, arguably, and I know they're young, so this may be a little bit of a reach because they're so young in the quarterback room, but that is one of the most talented quarterback rooms in the country.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say best, but it's one of the most talented quarterback rooms in the country, and he's the clear starter. He's the clear starter. That shows me that he's got to be somewhat settled in, and he's got to have the reins on that offensive side of the ball. So, you're right. Battling the injury last year really hurt him. He played a really bad game against Texas Tech. He had some bad showings. But like you said, against Alabama, against one of the better defenses in the country, he balled out for a quarter. It wasn't for a whole game.
Right.
Getting into some of his stats, he only threw for 2,100 yards.
Right.
That's not going to cut it. That's not going to win you the Heisman. He threw for 15 touchdowns and 6 picks. Not going to win you the Heisman.
A third of Caleb's touchdowns and more picks.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
In a lot less games.
Well, you could say that for both stats.
Yeah.
More picks and a lot less games too.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay,
is regardless, the ratio for Quinn Ewers to Caleb Williams, Caleb Williams was a lot better.
Right. A better team, yeah.
Yeah. So now I will say, looking at this year, I want to say Quinn Ewers has better targets around him.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
I think maybe so, yeah. I mean, Xavier Worthy, I think, is the best target when you're talking about both teams. But after that, I think USC starts to fill in. So I don't know.
Quinn Ewers has a better tight end in my opinion.
Absolutely.
So I think Xavier Worthy is probably, if you combined both receivers, Xavier Worthy is the number 1 receiver.
That's what I'm saying.
On that collective team.
Yeah.
I think Texas has a better tight end. I'd say A.D. Mitchell.
Sanders,
A.D. Mitchell's arguably the 2 or 3 on that collective team.
Yeah, I think he's the 3 probably. Yeah.
So I think you're looking at. I think Quinn Ewers definitely has the better targets. Now I do think Caleb Williams is the better quarterback.
Yeah.
If you're looking at statistically what could happen and how does Quinn Ewers win the Heisman, I think it's got to be because he's putting the ball in the hands of those athletes. That, if you took those 2 teams and made them one team, I think Texas would have more skill players starting.
The problem is, and this is going to sound dumb, but Caleb Williams would be the starter.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like he's the better quarterback, right? So, but I mean, yeah, I just have no clue how at least they have him this high. If we're just talking about odds, I'm very surprised they have him this high.
Yeah.
So,
and one thing that's odd that is working to Caleb Williams' benefit is USC's defense is far worse.
Yeah.
So teams score quicker, meaning Caleb Williams has the ball in his hands for much more time than Quinn Ewers
just to clarify, far worse than Texas is not far worse than last year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're better than last year.
Yeah. But yeah, their defense is far worse than Texas's, meaning Caleb Williams is going to have the ball in his hands a lot more than Quinn Ewers. So the stats may, be skewed that way.
Right.
I don't know. I am expecting a big year out of Quinn Ewers. I know you're really not. I don't think he's going to have a Heisman-worthy season. I don't think he's going to win the Heisman Trophy. But I definitely don't expect him to throw for 2,100 yards and only 15 touchdowns.
Well, no, because I don't expect him to get hurt. That's all that says.
Okay, but if he didn't get hurt, you think he would have had a 3,500 yard season if he didn't?
No, I think 3,000 is fair. 3,500 no.
So I'm expecting 3,700 out of him, which is
so you're
still
expecting him to be a top 10 quarterback,
which is still a lot less than Caleb Williams had last year.
You expect him to be a top 10 quarterback?
Yeah.
Eesh. I think that's
He's got the second best odds. He's got the second best odds to win Heisman. I mean,
the key is
somebody agrees with me.
No, yeah, for sure. Let's talk about the other elephant in the room. Do they win 10 games? Because to me, it's no.
You don't think they have you don't think they have a good shot to win the Big 12?
I think they have a chance, but I don't think they. No, I don't think they end up winning. I don't think they end up doing enough, whether they win 10 games or not. I don't think they end up doing enough to no. No.
Well, we'll get to Texas this season when we get there.
Yeah.
We'll break down Texas and Oklahoma on the same episode.
For sure.
Yeah, we'll get there when we get there. I think that's what it's going to come down to. I don't think he alone is going to have a Heisman-worthy season, but if they can pull out 11 wins and he's, the starter and throws for 3,500 yards, 3,700 yards, then maybe we could talk about him being in the Heisman.
So the problem is, though, look at the precedent for that. Again, we go back to J.J. McCarthy in Michigan and, again, Caleb Williams, right? So Caleb Williams, let's say he just duplicates last year, which I think he definitely could. Because you got to think Jordan Addison was out for a lot of last year, too. So I think he definitely could do what he did last year. Well, Quinn Ewers basically at that point, to me, turns into the J.J. McCarthy of last year.
I think Quinn Ewers is better than J.J. McCarthy. And what you're looking at there is Caleb Williams was on a team who had 2 losses. In those 2 losses, both to Utah, Caleb Williams balled out.
Well, no. He didn't ball out in the other one.
In the championship game, you're saying? Okay, in the first game, they put up, 42 points, and he balled.
Yeah.
So in the second game, he threw a couple picks, but
he also was kind of battling injury throughout that game.
Yeah, he was battling injury. In the second game, he threw a couple picks. He was battling injury, but he did throw for a decent amount of yards.
Yeah.
Like
he ran for a ton. He ran for almost 100 yards.
Mikey, check me on this, but I want to say in that conference championship game, Caleb Williams threw for more yards than J.J. McCarthy did all year.
Oh, in a game all year. I was like, dude, no.
Yeah.
But you got to think, though. I mean, push comes to shove. McCarthy was 12-0. McCarthy balled against Ohio State.
Okay, but he didn't ball. He threw for 4 he threw for 4 touchdowns,
right.
But he threw for damn near
11, I believe.
No yards.
I mean,
that was his best outing was against Ohio State, and he was 50% passing.
That was his best touchdown outing. Yes.
Yeah.
But even then, right? Like a lot of personal lists, so not odds, but a lot of personal lists have J.J. McCarthy in the top 5. And I think that does come a lot from the team success. But again, if you're at the helm of a team that's 12-0, something's going really well. Now, you could say that something is the defense. Yes. Could say they have the best running back in college football. You'd be
best
right.
offensive lines.
Best offensive line.
Best
absolutely.
backup running back. One of the best coaches.
So, right, I mean, there's some merit to that. But a guy like that, well, he's not on the list. What do we have, Mike?
So in the conference championship game, Caleb threw for 363, and it looks like JJ's best game was against TCU, where he threw for 343.
Yeah,
there you go. Yeah.
So
they both lost.
So that's my point.
They both lost those games. That's rough.
And that was an overtime game. The TCU game.
And JJ McCarthy threw.
It wasn't. It was not an overtime
6s.
game. It wasn't an overtime game.
Oh no. I thought you. For me, playoff is what hit me.
Yeah.
He threw 2 pick sixes in that game. How about that? They both threw, and I think I'm right, 2 picks in those games. McCarthy might have had 3. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, let's whenever you get.
They both had 2.
They both threw for 2. Yeah.
And both of McCarthy's went back. That's tough.
And in both of those games, McCarthy threw for 58.8% completion percentage, and Caleb had 64.
There you go.
Caleb's the better quarterback, and it's not close.
Oh, yeah.
But my point is, he's so much better that on his worst day, he was better in completion percentage and threw for more yards. On his
he's
worst
not
day.
going to go back-to-back?
He potentially could, but I don't think we should be talking about J.J. McCarthy, is what I'm saying.
Right.
All right, let's go to Jaden Daniels. He's tied for the second best odds. What was it, plus 1,100, I believe?
Wait. I gotta stay on this for a second.
Okay, go ahead.
J.J. McCarthy did everything Quinn Ewers did and more. He stayed healthy all year. I know that's out of control, but he did, right? To me, right, J.J. McCarthy will win more games this year, and I'm not arguing he should be on this list, although he might should. I'm just arguing against Quinn Ewers here. Like, to me, they're the same quarterback. We've seen that they can win a couple games. We've seen that they can produce. They're not going to be flashy and crazy. Neither of them can take off and run 20 miles an hour. Neither of them can throw the deep ball like Caleb Williams, et cetera, et cetera. But to me, they're both the same kind of quarterback. No. Game managers that can win games and can flash.
No, I disagree entirely. I think you're right about J.J. McCarthy. I think he's absolutely a game manager type quarterback.
Right.
He's Stetson
Bennett.
He's certainly on the better. He's not Stetson Bennett. He's certainly on the better team. But he's not going to throw for the yards Stetson Bennett did. He's not going to be clutch like Stetson Bennett was. He's probably
McCarthy?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe. He's coming back again, though. You got to think, this dude's been starting there for 3 years now. They've gone back-to-back undefeated years. They do it again, I don't know.
Well, look, we can only look at what he's done.
Yeah.
I'm not going to live and die by what ifs.
Right.
He could be, and I'm not saying he will. I'm certainly not saying he will, but he could be a Heisman player.
Yeah.
I don't think he will.
Right.
He's not on the list. He doesn't have anywhere near to the best odds. But go ahead.
He's at plus 2,000.
Plus 2,000. There you go.
Which
So he's probably in the top 10.
Our fifth guy is plus 1,800.
Yeah, so he's probably in the top 10.
I think he's number 6 or 7.
Yeah, he's got to be sixth or seventh best odds.
That blows my mind. Blows my mind. He's not going to win Heisman. It's not happening.
But there's people on this list that are not either. Cade Klubnik's played 2 games. If we're only going to talk about precedents that are set, he's set. Hold on, Mikey, if you want to check, none. He's set no precedent.
Yeah.
Other than
we'll get to Klubnik when we get there.
So
I have an argument for that. We'll get to him when we get there. But
it's a quarterback who's talented, was in high school, is a 5-star guy, is good, but again plays for a good team. He's Quinn Ewers to me.
Quinn Ewers he's a true gunslinger. Yeah, he's going to throw some picks, but he's also going to sling the ball around the field.
I see Nussmeier on here. Okay, go ahead.
I'm not talking about.
Damn.
Nussmeier's a backup quarterback.
Quinn Ewers would be too if he was at any of these guys' schools, but that's okay.
Not in Michigan.
Well, he's not on here, but that's okay. Go ahead. He might start over Klubnik, so don't let me get there.
All right, let's look at the other guy who has the second best odds, tied for the second best odds, is Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
Thoughts here?
Oh, the problem is, again, you look back. So the key with him is the picks. Like, when you, look at the freaking, they do it in the NFL too. When you protect the ball, it goes a long way for voting. Right? Like, there's a lot to be said about a guy that threw 3 picks last year.
3.
That's huge. Now, he didn't touch Caleb's number. Like, it's rough. It's rough. To me, we've got to see more from the passing game. You can afford to throw 7 picks if you're going to throw for an extra 70 yards a game.
Yeah.
And you're going to throw an extra 10 touchdowns. You can afford to throw 4 or 5 more picks.
Yeah.
And that, right? Exactly what just came out of my mouth is not super unrealistic, but that does catapult you right to New York from what he did last year if he does those things.
Yeah.
So, to me, there's a shot. Second best odds, maybe a little bit of a stretch. I think there's a guy right below that we're about to talk about that should have the second best odds, or maybe the guy on here that has the worst odds from what we're looking at least. But
and not the fifth best odds. Just we're talking about
the worst that we're looking at, right?
Yeah.
But what he has that not another man on this list has is the run game.
Yeah.
If he runs for 1,200,
Caleb Williams has that.
Yeah, but he doesn't have the the odds for them to rush for 1,000. I'm talking about elite rushing ability.
Yeah.
To me, Caleb Williams is Mahomes, right? Yeah, I went there. He can do everything he could do a lot of things at a very high level. He could do everything at least at a good level.
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels is an elite rushing quarterback.
Yeah.
But if he, the other stuff, comes up to try to meet it, well, then you have an elite passer and an elite rusher, so those will cancel for at least what I'm talking about. And then if, Jaden can pass as well as Caleb can run, Well, we might be talking, but again, a lot about team success there too, and I know we're going to talk about them as well.
So, but again, I think you're living by the if there.
Yeah.
And so if we look back at last year, Jaden Daniels he missed an entire game collectively. So he played in LSU played 14, 15 games last year, right?
14, I think.
14. No, they were 10-4. So
Yeah. That's 14, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
They were 10-4. So they played in 14 games last year. So he played 13 full games. He missed the second half versus Southern just because they were stomping Southern.
Yeah.
And then he missed the second half versus Georgia because of injury
Yeah.
in the SEC championship game. He threw for 2,900 yards, 17 touchdowns, 3 picks. I feel like
That's poor.
Yeah, I feel like for the quarterback he is, for an SEC West champion team, a team that beat Alabama and went to the SEC championship game, those numbers are far too low, except for the picks. Obviously, the picks is a great stat.
Yeah.
He completed 266 passes on 388 attempts. That's not a bad percentage. That's 69% almost.
That's
68.6.
really good.
That's a good percentage. But the problem for me is, I said it last year. I'd love to see it change this year, but he's scared to throw the ball into coverage.
Yeah.
Which is why the picks are so low, which is a good thing to some capacity, but you got to be able to throw your guys open in man coverage. If you're an SEC quarterback, if you're the quarterback of a team that is being talked about to possibly repeat as division champions, contend for the SEC West or contend for the SEC, and potentially make a playoff run, you got to be able to throw your guys open in man coverage. And to me, we saw the difference between having Jaden Daniels, who is an elite running quarterback, a good passing quarterback to some capacity.
Takes care of the ball.
He takes care of the ball really well. But we saw the difference in that Georgia game because Nussmeier came in. Yeah, he threw a pick, but he threw for 290-something yards in just one half against Georgia. And he was throwing guys open, slinging the ball. I think his only touchdown was to a covered receiver that he just threw the ball to the right spot.
Yep, the openings were there.
Now, I'm not going to sit here and argue that Garrett Nussmeier should be the starter. You're talking about Jaden Daniels, a guy who, is being talked about to win the Heisman preseason. But I think we need to see more of that from Jaden if this has any legitimacy to it.
I agree.
That's my only point with Jaden. I think the potential is endless for him. He's got a good arm. He's got good accuracy. He's just got to have the confidence to actually go out there and sling it.
Yeah.
I think if that comes out, then we'll be talking differently about LSU. If he can give you 3,500 passing yards, look, that's not crazy. That's 600 more yards than he had last year. That's what?
It's 50 yards a game.
50 more yards a game.
Yeah.
That's 2 more passes that he throws per game.
Right.
That's the confidence. That's what the confidence can give you for sure.
3,500 yards and 900 rushing yards. Yeesh.
Yeah.
You're going to New York if your team's decent, and if he does that, they will be.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Now, what his team can't do is when you're talking about LSU is have a great season where you beat an Alabama on the road this year because that's where they play on the road. We'll talk about their schedule in a second, as well as USC's and who else? Florida State. So, if he goes on the road and beats Alabama, he beats Florida State, in a neutral game. With those kind of stats, then he'll be in the Heisman conversation, no doubt, at the end of the year.
Yeah.
What they can't do is lose to Mississippi State on the road or Texas A&M like they did last year. They have to win the games they're supposed to win if he's going to be in the Heisman conversation.
Right.
We have 3 more guys to talk about. Let's quickly talk about
these up,
Let's talk about Michael Penix Jr., Cade Klubnik, and Bo Nix.
Yeah, so when you're talking about statistics, Penix Jr. might be your guy.
Yeah.
Other than probably, again, Caleb Williams. But, he led the country in passing yards last year. Obviously, that almost puts you out there anyway.
4,600
Only
yards.
2 losses. I don't know. He gets his 2 receivers back. His 2 receivers that were insane last year are going to be even better.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. I don't know. I think if they end up going 11-1, which they could, right? I don't think that's completely out of the realm of possibility. They go 11-1, he's going to New York. It's just a matter of what these other guys do at that point.
And let's be clear: if they go 11-1, they're going to the Pac-12 championship.
Yeah.
And if they can find a way to win that, I think he's your Heisman because you're looking at Michael Penix Jr. or Caleb Williams in that scenario.
And you're talking about the best quarterback that's left. The best quarterback left that, by the way, would have probably had to beat Caleb Williams. Yeah, that's your Heisman, period, end of story.
Yeah.
He's your best quarterback that's still left playing and just beat the guy that won it last year who also would probably go to New York. that's your Heisman.
Yeah.
If his statistics are close.
I agree.
So to me, this should be the second best odds.
If he can repeat what he did last year and play in the Pac-12 championship, I think he's got a really good shot. Now, if he wins it, he's your Heisman.
I think so too. Because again, I think he'd have to win it over Caleb. And if not, then it's not going to be Caleb anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Okay. I think our opinion on that is very clear.
Yeah.
Let's go to Cade Klubnik.
Again, this is yours to me. It's somebody that hasn't shown us anything that is Heisman worthy. And we put him on here because he's the quarterback on a good team and was talented in high school.
So I think more so than Cade Klubnik having a potential Heisman season, I think what they're crediting this to is Garrett Riley.
Yeah.
Being the OC there. Because last year, if we would have had this conversation 365 days ago and Max Duggan was on the list, we'd say absolutely no shot, and he was in New York. I think that's a lot to do with Garrett Riley. I think if that can translate, then Cade Klubnik may be there. I don't think he's going to win the Heisman. I really don't think they're going to be in the playoff this year. They have a shot, but I don't think they're going to be in the playoff. And I think for a Clemson team, it's going to be really hard to win and not be in the playoff.
Yeah.
Given the precedent of guys that's been through there.
Trevor didn't win a Heisman.
Yeah.
Like that's all you need to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and he's not Trevor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, last guy on the list is Bo Nix. I think this, to me, just looking at this list, my brain wants to tell me it's between Caleb Williams and Michael Penix Jr. My gut tells me Bo Nix has a really, really good shot to win the Heisman.
I think he has an identical shot that Michael Penix Jr. does. Because for the exact same reasons. Mm-hmm. They were 10-2 last year. They ended up winning one extra game and then again win the Pac-12 championship. You still have Cam Rising over there in Utah. You still have Caleb Williams. Like there's guys you gotta. That is a tall ass task with all the quarterbacks over there. However, you come out of that, he again will be the best quarterback remaining. I think he's better than J.J. McCarthy. I think they're one of mine. I think he's better than whoever's at Ohio State. I think he's better than Carson Beck. So again, you will be the best quarterback remaining, and you would have had to have beat either Caleb Williams or Michael Penix Jr. probably. Or, of course, Cam Rising, the best team to get there. So if you're the best quarterback remaining, you're 11-1 or 12-1, then, yeah, I think you're the Heisman, period. End of story.
Now, here's the thing.
The statistics are there.
The statistics are there, but they're not at the same level as Caleb Williams and Michael Penix Jr.
Yeah.
He threw for 3,600 yards, which, again, is enough to get you in the conversation. But when you're talking about 4,600 yards and 4,500 yards, or I think that was what the other two had.
Yeah, 45, 46.
Yeah, he's 1,000 yards behind.
A lot of rushing yards, though.
A lot of rushing yards, and
more touchdowns.
And to me, what Bo Nix gives you is he gives the offense a chance on 3rd and 12.
Yeah.
And not to say that the other guys don't. They can air it out.
Caleb does.
They can air it out. But if you're going to Bo Nix is a guy that if you're going to bring 7, if you're going to bring 8, you better get home.
Yeah.
On a guy like Bo Nix.
How many touchdowns did he run for last year, Mikey? That dude ran for, it had to be 15.
14.
Bo Nix?
Yeah, Bo Nix ran
nuts.
510 yards, 14 touchdowns. His longest touchdown one was 80 yards.
Now let's talk about a true dark horse here that's not on this list. Mm-hmm. Where the hell is Drake May on this list?
I think it's largely in part because of he
it's
fell
gotta
off.
Be a team.
He fell off in the last 4 games, and he lost his best receiver. Josh Downs is gone.
You mess around and come back and do what you did again last year. I mean, I don't know. To me, there were a lot of people this year that said he should have been the Heisman.
I think through the first 8 games of the year, we were very high on Drake May. Yeah. We were like, this dude's going to win a Heisman before he leaves North Carolina. I'm not.
He leaves next year.
I haven't given up on that. What'd you say?
This is last year.
I know. This is his last year. I haven't given up on that. I think he could potentially. He's certainly good enough to be in the conversation. I just don't know if he has the pieces around him. I don't know if his team's going to go win 9-10 games this year.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Okay, let's get into breakdown of Florida State, LSU, and USC. We can kind of move through this a little bit quicker.
Yeah, so we'll go USC. So this is pretty easy, right? They bring back the best player in college football, the Heisman.
Yeah.
Obviously, that is always going to help you. Of course, they lose guys like Jordan Addison, but with him being hurt a lot of the year last year, it's not going to kill you. Mm-hmm. The biggest key with them, and it's always going to be a key with them with the NIL and everything, is the revolving door of transfers. To me, having 6 transfers on the defense, you have 4 transfers on offense. Like that's, first of all, like it's like 19 out of 22 transfers of starters. But again, like 10 of them are new, like just coming in transfers. Dude, that's tough. It doesn't matter if they're all 5-star transfers. That's tough to play. Obviously, that would help. But
it's hard to build chemistry that way.
Yeah, for sure. As far as receiving cores go, we had kind of touched on it a little bit. They have a really freaking good receiving core. And of course, Caleb Williams is just going to make them 10 times better. So, I think the problem is, if I'm going to go like quick synopsis here, I'm going to say that you probably have a team very similar to last year's. Going to give up a shit ton of points and going to score a shit ton of points.
Yeah.
Probably going to score more than the other team most of the time, but they will fall short because of their defense.
I think here's what's going to happen. I think let's get into the schedule breakdown a little bit. I agree with you about Caleb Williams and their receiving core.
Right.
They open up against San Jose State. Then they play Nevada, Stanford, Arizona State, Colorado, Arizona.
Dubs, all dubs.
Yeah. So they start out. They open up 6-0, and I think they open up 6-0, and I think their defense looks really good halfway through the season.
Yeah, because a lot of them, I mean, it's hard not to look good against them.
They're not playing great teams.
No.
So I think what's going to happen is a lot of people are going to have an inflated view of their defense. They're going to play Notre Dame, and it's going to be real interesting because in their last 6 games, they play at Notre Dame versus Utah, at Cal. I think that's a win. I think we can say that's a win. But it's after those 2 difficult games, so, it could be interesting.
No.
I think they're winning, but I think it could be closer than we expect.
Yeah, it could be within 28. That's true.
We go. Okay, so at Notre Dame versus Utah, at Cal. Then they go versus Washington, at Oregon versus UCLA.
That stretch blows.
That back half of that schedule is brutal, man.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
You have a shot to be playing 5 top 25 teams out of 6 games.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like an SEC schedule. How crazy. Yeah, I mean, you're talking about and just the sheer quarterbacks. I mean, damn. So game 7, Notre Dame 6-0. What happens in Notre Dame? Sam Hartman.
I think with Marcus Freeman and how Notre Dame opened up last season, they looked like they were just going to be horrendous. And then they got it together and beat Clemson and put together a really nice. They closed out that year well.
Yeah.
This is going to be interesting. Man, I don't know. Notre Dame's playing that game at home. Sam Hartman was one of you and I's favorite quarterbacks. I think he's one of the most complete quarterbacks.
Yeah.
The way they used him at Wake Forest with that long delayed mesh that opened up the pass game and made linebackers stay tight to the line. I think if he's a guy that's going to get used differently at Notre Dame than he did Wake Forest. Yeah. They're going to run the ball a lot more. He's probably not going to be able to air it out as more. He'll be able to. I just don't know if they will.
Right.
God, this is interesting, man. I don't know. Halfway through the season like this is going to be a tough game, and I think they're really, really going to make USC's defense step up.
Yeah.
I think Notre Dame's going to control the time of possession, and they're gonna make USC's defense they're going to make it difficult for USC's defense, and Caleb Williams is going to have to win this game if they win it.
Yeah, USC by 14. I think.
I don't think that's crazy, but I think Notre Dame puts up 28, 35 points.
For sure. Yeah. But that's the thing with them. Like, they can give up 35 if they're putting up 45,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to me, a lot of these games are going to be dumb. Like, I could easily see them putting up 50 in 3 of the first 6.
So to me, this is a game that if USC can win this game by double digits, Caleb Williams will be the Heisman favorite going into that next game.
Absolutely.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
Because he's not going to have the ball for nearly as long as Notre Dame will.
Right.
Sam Hartman will have the ball in his hands for much more time. I mean, you're talking 8-10 more minutes than Caleb Williams will.
Right.
So he's going to have to score quicker. He's going to have to be more efficient with the ball. And if they can do that, if they can put up 42, 45 points like you're expecting them to do, he's going to have to ball out in that game.
And again, I do expect him to repeat his Heisman. So, I mean, but I agree. I think that would make him the head and shoulders guy.
So I think Notre Dame wins this game.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm going to go 6-1 here. Obviously, you're going 7-0.
Do you give them back-to-back losses?
I don't. I think USC.
Okay.
I think USC gets their revenge on Utah this year and beats them at home.
After not beating them twice last year, after losing twice last year.
Well, they didn't play them at home either time. The first game was really, really close. Utah just decided to go for 2 late in the game, and then the Pac-12 championship,
Skull drug.
It was USC jumped out to an early lead to the point where you kept saying the game was over, and I was like, no, Utah's gonna win this game.
Yeah.
But I think USC finds a way to win this year at home. I think you're looking at 7-1 there.
I don't know what Utah's going to do without a tight end, like a huge tight end presence. So I'm kind of scared about that.
They have it.
No, I understand, but he's not Kincaid.
Well, he started over Kincaid last year and got hurt.
Yeah, but we'll see. I don't know. Go ahead.
Okay.
And you think they lose to Cal?
No.
Okay.
No. I think you're looking at 8-1 after Cal. You didn't make a prediction for the Utah game. You think they win it?
No, I think they drop that game again.
Okay, so we both have them at 8-1 after Cal, just dropping different games. Okay.
I just think that defense is so like poorly. We'll see. We'll see.
So Washington, we both have them at 8-1 going into November 4th, which is going to be a huge day for college football. There's a lot of good games in early November. 8-1. We haven't broke down Washington's schedule. I think this is going to be these last 3 games in the Pac-12 are going to be huge, huge, huge for deciding who goes to the championship
and who goes to the playoffs probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you expect this Washington game to go?
I'm going to take USC. I think it's going to be again another high-scoring affair. I don't think Washington's defense is good enough to stop USC. I don't think USC's defense is good enough to stop Penix, but I think it comes to there again. I mean, I think a lot of these games, because the schedule's so difficult, it's going to come down to, Caleb Williams with the ball with 3 minutes left. Well, give me Caleb Williams every time. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know. I'm going to take USC in a close one.
I think both teams cover 35.
Yeah, I think so too.
And I'm going to take Washington.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're taking them to drop Notre Dame and Washington?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm taking them to drop Notre Dame and Washington here.
I can't wait to cover Washington's schedule.
Hold on. Let me back up. This is a toss-up game to me. I do. I want to take Washington right now, but I do think this is a toss-up game. I think both teams are going to score. I think both teams cover. Surpass 35 points. You're right about Washington's defense. I think Washington's defense is going to be better than USC's defense when you talk about scoring defense and total defense and all that.
Right.
I don't know. This is a 50-50 game. This is a coin flip for me.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a coin flip type game that USC just wins?
Absolutely. No. I think it's close. I don't think they win by much. But again, I think if it comes down to it and Caleb Williams has the ball late, I don't think he can lose.
I think when you're looking at Michael Penix Jr. and a guy who threw for the most yards last year, and he has 2 better receivers than Caleb Williams has.
Absolutely. Those combined teams, Caleb Williams doesn't have anybody but the 3rd, 4th best receiver.
The problem is, I like Washington to win this game. I'm going to go with that. For USC to win, they're going to have to slow their game down. They like to play quick. They're very efficient with the ball. They air it out and they score quickly. They do. And a lot of times it's because their defense, they have to.
Yeah.
A lot of times they have to. In this game, I don't know if they're going to have to. I think actually what they're going to need to do is slow the game down to keep the ball out of Washington's offense's hands. Right. If they're going to have a shot, not have a shot, I think it's going to be a close game. But I think if they're going to win this game, they cannot let Michael Penix Jr. and those receivers be on the field more than them.
Yeah.
Period.
Simple. Oh.
So I do like Washington in a close one, but I think both teams, that game very well could be in the 40s.
Yeah.
Okay, and then they go to Oregon. If USC loses to Washington going into Oregon, this game becomes significantly more important.
Yeah, I'm going to take Oregon in this one. I think Bo Nix is going to be nuts this year. I think by that time, those two are basically going to be neck. I think all 3 of these guys are going to be neck and neck.
Yeah.
Statistically and all that kind of stuff. So I think Oregon has the better team. They're going to have the better defense. That's not a secret to anybody.
Yeah.
I'm taking Oregon in this one.
I'm also taking Oregon.
Yeah.
And I think both offenses are really good. I do think Caleb Williams is better than Bo Nix. But I think Oregon's defense is so much better than USC's defense that I like Oregon by 7 to 10 points.
Yeah, I agree. I thought you were going to take USC in that one.
And then for me, after dropping 3 of their last 5, I think they just dog walk UCLA.
Yeah. Boat race. I agree.
Yeah. And so I think they finished the regular season 9-3.
Without DTR, without Zach Charbonnet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think 9-3. You have them 9-3 as well?
Yep, with different losses.
You had them losing to Notre Dame, Utah, and Oregon. I had them losing to Notre Dame.
No. I had Utah and Oregon. I'm sorry, 10-2.
Yeah, so you just had Utah and Oregon.
Yeah.
I had Notre Dame, Washington, Oregon.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have them 10-2. I have them 9-3. 10-2, Caleb Williams is absolutely in the Heisman conversation at 10-2.
Absolutely.
9-3, I think he's probably 3rd on the list.
Yeah.
You had something to say? Oh, okay. You're holding that mic up like you did. All right.
Florida State.
Let's move on to Florida State.
Staying ready.
I think Jordan Travis is another true Heisman contender that we didn't really talk about. Again, it depends on the success of the team. And spoiler alert, before we get into it, I think their team's going to have some pretty decent success.
Yeah.
So, what you think?
And he's got weapons around him too. Johnny Wilson's unbelievable. He's 6'7".
Yeah.
You pair him with Jordan Travis, who's a guy that, especially when they open up against LSU, that's a team they beat last year.
Yeah.
On a blocked extra point. So Jaden Daniels put together a hell of a drive to go 99 yards in a minute and a half to, set up the game-tying extra point, and they blocked it. I don't think there's a clear hole on this Florida State team.
Me either. They pick up another 2 weapons too. So my Keon Coleman, who's another 6'4" receiver. Travis is just gonna be launching that thing. And Jaheim Bell, probably the best tight end in the portal.
Yeah. So I don't want to say I don't know if this team is elite across the board. They're certainly better in certain positions than other. Obviously quarterback, they got one of the best quarterbacks in the country. You look at their skill positions at wide receiver, tight end, running back. They are solid.
Yeah.
They're better in those categories than the rest, but they have no holes anywhere.
Yeah.
Their defensive line should be really good. Their linebacking core should be really good.
They just picked up the best secondary transfer in the country.
Yeah.
Fetchall Cypress. So, they're a top 15 defense last year, and I'd argue their defense got better.
Yeah.
So,
you want to get in? Let's get into the schedule breakdown then. They open up September 3rd, a Sunday, which is great for college football. I love that. Opening weekend, have games all Saturday, and then have an extra game on Sunday. They open up in Orlando versus LSU. What do you think?
I think LSU takes this one. I think they start out 0-1. I think it could be a close game. My God, it was close as it gets last year. Mm-hmm. I know this is not how football works. I know this is not how sports work. But if you look at last year and you say, okay, they were equal. That game was literally as close as it gets. It was a blocked field goal. And again, I know that's not how it works. I think LSU got better than Florida State did in the offseason.
I think what's tricky about that game and what isn't super, super telling is Mason Smith for LSU, the nose tackle, got hurt on the first possession of the game, and you lose him. He was a guy who was a preseason All-American. And then you look at that offense, they just absolutely could not gel. There was no chemistry. They were incredibly inefficient. The offense was entirely on the back of Jaden Daniels' feet.
Yeah.
So I think you look at that game and say how LSU in that game, they ended up being a really good team, but in that game, how they kept that game within 1 point is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I tend to agree with you. I want to say I think LSU will win this game in a close one. They're a 2.5 point favorite.
Yeah.
I think LSU wins this game in a close one, but I look at LSU and they haven't won a season opener since 2019, the year they won the national championship.
So if LSU wins, we're looking at 15-0.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing. I don't know.
I don't know. This one's tricky. This is the best opponent they've faced, even better than the Florida State team last year. This is the best opponent they've faced in the last 4 years to open the season.
Yeah.
Again, I believe LSU will win this game, but if LSU is to win this game, they have to be in midseason form out the gate.
Yeah. But you say that, but midseason last year's form is what you would expect week 1 out of a second-year coach. Midseason form means that coach has been there for long enough to play 6 games. Well, now, right, he's gotten a whole offseason under him. He's gotten some of his guys. He's gotten all of his transfers. The first game of a head coach and the first game next year should be absolute night and day.
Yeah.
So I expect them to be in last year LSU's midseason form to come out, if not better. And I expect that for every team. That's another thing with USC that's kind of scary.
Now, the tricky part, too, is we talked about Jordan Travis. We talked about the weapons he has.
Yeah.
When you look at LSU, they're going to have arguably the best defensive line in the country, certainly one of the best defensive lines in the country.
Georgia might have something to say about that, but yeah.
And you can make that same case for the linebacker room. I'm not going to, but the case can be made.
Yeah, with Omar and Harold.
When you talk about the secondary, the entire secondary minus Greg Brooks is out the transfer portal.
Yeah.
So that gets really tricky when you're talking about the strength of that Florida State offense being those weapons and Jordan Travis.
Yeah.
That gets tricky. Now, that was the same scenario last year, too, and they kept that within a 1 point game. I don't know, man. This is a really, really tricky matchup. It works out in favor for Florida State when you're looking at their strengths versus LSU's defensive weakness. It looks like it's in the favor of Florida State. But if LSU's pass rush, if they can rely on Harold Perkins and Omar Spates and Mekhi Wingo, if they can develop some pass rush, if they can develop some pass rush while simultaneously containing Jordan Travis, which is no easy task.
No.
That is a big ask. But if they can do that, they win.
I agree.
If not, this is a coin flip.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm going to give it to LSU.
Me too.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
So you also have to look at it like LSU going into that game last year. Like you said, they didn't have Mason Smith. They didn't have Harold Perkins playing the way he did last year.
Yeah.
Right.
And Harold Perkins' job when he's on the field is go get the quarterback.
He only played special teams in that game.
Yeah.
So having him on the field at all times going into this game, I think that's going to be the difference maker.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a good point, too. I still think it's a coin flip, but I'm going LSU in this game. I know you said the same.
Yeah.
From here out, Florida State goes USM. Wow, I could not get that out.
Southern Miss.
They have Southern Miss, Boston College. So I think they go into the Clemson game 2-1. They go to Clemson.
Yeah.
I think they win this game.
Me too.
I think they win this game by 10-14.
Yeah. I don't think Clemson's all that this year. I know we're not talking about them, but yeah, I think they win this one too.
Clemson's offense, I do expect to be improved, but I don't know if it'll be good enough to put up the amount of points necessary on this Florida State defense.
Virginia Tech dub, Syracuse dub, Duke dub. They go to Wake Forest. That's a 3-game home stretch. They go to Wake Forest. I'm going to hold up for a second. I mean, I think they win this game flying colors, but
Me too.
Wake could be decent.
Wake could be decent, but they lost one of the best quarterbacks in arguably the best quarterback in the ACC.
Yeah.
Arguably.
Yeah.
And that would be last year. That would be between Sam Hartman and Jordan Travis.
Yeah.
So you talk about those two teams, and you had the two best quarterbacks in the ACC, and one of them's not playing anymore. I got to go with Jordan Travis.
So you're talking about 7-1, and then 2 Pitt, 8-1.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about at home versus Miami, week 10? Sorry.
This is tricky. This is an in-state rivalry. This game is approached. It's approached the same way, but this game plays differently than the rest. When you're talking about in-state rivalries, like for Florida State, that would be Miami, Florida, UCF. Those games just play differently. I still like Florida State in this game, but I don't want to disregard what Mario Cristobal is doing at Miami. I think Miami is definitely on the come up right now.
Me too. I think it's too early. I think Florida State's got the pieces together. I think Miami's getting them together pretty quick. What about University of North Arkansas?
Yeah, they win that game.
Okay.
So they're 10-1 going into Florida.
Where, in my opinion,
It's North Alabama, not North Arkansas.
North Alabama.
Doesn't matter. Regardless, they win that game.
Yeah, so actually, no, but that does change things. I win by 50, not 55, so it'll be a little bit different.
So they're 10-1 going into Florida at Florida.
They go to the Swamp and they lose. I think Florida's got them this year. I think they're playing much differently. Dude, I mean, I don't know how many the freaking Swamp holds. They're all going to be there.
Yeah.
And then some. This is going to be a huge game, and I don't think they win this one.
You look at that game last year, Florida State won it, but it was a tight game.
Yeah,
It was
absolutely.
a tight game. Florida State almost lost that game. And then, just to put some more emphasis on it, look at Florida last year. They were a 6 or 7 win team. They were a 7-win team last year.
And everyone and their mother knows they're going to be better than that this year.
And they beat Utah at home.
Yeah.
The Pac-12 championship.
Yep.
So playing that game at Florida makes it a lot more difficult. I think if Florida State plays this game at home, they win. They find a way to win. Like you said, this game just plays differently. But man, this is a tricky one. I like Florida State to win. I like Florida State to win the ACC. I do like them. I like them to have a 10-win regular season, go to the ACC championship, and win it.
ACC is the weakest conference this year, and it's not close.
I agree.
Yeah, it's not close.
I agree. This is a game that Florida State will be favored in and should win, but I think they lose.
Could possibly be favored in. I mean, they're away.
They'll be favored in this game.
Yeah, I think they lose too. I'm 10-2 here.
Yeah, I agree. 10-2 regular season. We agreed on their losses, LSU and Florida, right?
Yep.
That's rough. So that
would blow.
That's 2 SEC losses.
Yeah.
Losses to the only 2 SEC teams they play. They go to the ACC championship. I think they win it. I think that would be against Clemson again. Do you agree?
Possibly, yeah. If not, it's Miami or North Carolina, but Clemson's, I don't know. Yeah, probably Clemson. Yeah.
So beating Clemson twice is rough, but I think they do it. I think they do it. And then you're looking at a potential playoff team, 2-loss conference champion. Their only losses are to SEC teams.
Yeah.
A 2-loss conference champion, undefeated in conference, 2 losses to SEC teams. I think there's a chance they get in there, depending on what the field does.
It's just a Pac-12.
Depending on what the field does.
Because No, I don't think you get in there. I think you have a Big 12 either undefeated or one loss. I think you have an SEC either undefeated or one loss, and I think you have a Pac-12 probably not undefeated, but the good shot is the one loss. So I think they.
I think you're looking at the Big Ten. The Big Ten is going to have an either undefeated or one-loss conference champion. The SEC very likely is going to have an undefeated or one-loss conference champion and another team that's probably a one- or two-loss team that played with them.
Yeah.
The Pac-12 is going to have I believe the Pac-12 is going to have a representative in the playoff.
Big 12?
The Pac-12.
Whew, okay.
I said the Pac-12.
Okay.
Did I say the Big 12? I said Pac-12.
Okay. No, I misheard that.
So I believe the Pac-12 is going to have a representative in that game. So yeah, I don't know if they're going to get in. If they're going to get in as a 10-2 conference champion,
They better skull drug Clemson.
yeah,
Drag Clemson.
they better dominate Clemson twice, and they'll get in as a 4 seed. They might be able to squeak their way in.
Yeah.
All right, LSU.
All right. So we've done a lot of talking about LSU already. But again, I think getting Mason Smith back, you're not just talking about a good defensive tackle. You're talking about, again, last year a preseason All-American.
And Mekhi Wingo. Mekhi Wingo is
Yeah.
a guy that doesn't get a ton of love nationally, but he was the best lineman on that team last year.
Yeah.
With Mason Smith's absence, I think you get him back and pair them together. That's dangerous.
That's You got Harold Perkins coming off the edge / I don't know what they'll have him doing this year. I mean, he's so versatile.
He's listed as a Mike.
Yeah, really. Yeah, so that's really interesting. And then again, you add Omar Speights, who is a all Pac-12 linebacker. So that's, again, when you're talking about front sevens, you're always going to talk about Georgia. You're going to talk about Michigan, but like, damn, this front seven is nothing to play with.
Yeah. And then Greg Brooks at safety. He's a no holds barred kind of guy. He's flying to the ball everywhere on the field. He's I want to say he led LSU in tackles last year.
Yes,
I believe.
No, Micah did.
Micah did 2 years ago.
It might have been Greg Brooks. I don't know. Mikey. But I mean, but that's the thing about you see a lot of LSU safeties that way. Like just they're all ball hawks, but they all can tackle.
Mm-hmm. Michael led the team in 89 tackles.
I got you. Greg was second.
Yeah.
Nice. There you
Okay.
go. As safety, that's
And
impressive.
so that's something to talk about. So Micah Baskerville is a guy that didn't get a ton of love nationally, but he led LSU defensively in tackles 2 years in a row.
Right.
Losing that guy is tough. Now I think Harold Perkins will probably lead the team in tackles this year.
Yes. Yeah.
I believe.
Especially if he's playing Mike. Dude, he could he could really mess around and lead the country in tackles if he's playing a true Mike.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think him playing true Mike is the move for LSU, but if that ends up being the case, oh my God. Yeah, that dude's nuts.
I don't know. It depends on how they have him playing. If he plays like a guy like Devin White did a couple of years ago, where he can provide that pass rush and take away the middle of the field in the past game,
Devin White was the 5th overall pick.
That's
so,
a huge asset.
Yeah, that's the Buckets Award winner.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see there. Look, if there's anybody that can compare to a guy like Devin White, it would be Harold Perkins.
Absolutely.
It would be Harold Perkins. So we'll see how that plays out. I am worried about the secondary.
Me too. That a really young secondary. That's gonna be rough.
Now they did pull in the second best transfer in the class at secondary, Denver Harris.
Yep.
He's a cornerback on this team. They pulled in a guy from Southeastern. They still have Seven Banks on the roster from Ohio State. He saw an injury in the Auburn game last year. I want to say right about the middle of the season.
Yeah.
This gets tricky. This gets really tricky in the secondary. Let's get into the schedule breakdown, and I'll talk about why.
Yeah. So
we both have them
already
beating
previewed this
Florida
game.
State.
Yeah.
We both have them beating Florida State. I think they
beat Grambling.
Yeah, it's not close.
Yeah.
So they go to Mississippi State 2-0. This is a game I talked about. I said, this team has for Jaden Daniels to be in that Heisman conversation at the end of the year. This is a team that has to win the games they're supposed to win. They're going to be a favorite in this game, but this will be interesting.
I think they beat them. I think Will Rogers, is really good. Florida State. Mississippi State's got a great team. Obviously, I don't think they're going to blow them out, but I think they beat them.
Yeah.
I think Mississippi State's 9-3 this year, though. I think
tricky.
they're legit.
I think Mississippi State's a good team. Obviously, they have a new head coach.
Yeah.
Super unfortunate situation,
Right.
but they have a new head coach. But Will Rogers is one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the entire country, in my opinion. He's one of the most, I don't want to say dynamic, but he's one of the best true passing quarterbacks in the country.
Right.
This is a guy that has the potential to he has the potential on any given day to throw for 300 yards on you. And if he does that against LSU, it's going to be really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Now, looking back at this game last year, LSU won it by 17 points, I want to say. Was LSU the favorite in that game last year? I don't remember. I think they were the favorite, but it was supposed to be a really close game.
Right.
And LSU ended up, that kind of set their season into motion. I agree with you. I think LSU
that was at Death Valley.
That was at Death Valley. So, I think LSU wins this game. But I don't think it's a 17-point win.
Right.
You about to say something? No? Okay.
What about Arkansas? That was a really close game last year.
That was a really close game last year. That was a weird game. It was freezing cold.
Yeah.
LSU was just coming off the Alabama win. They had a little bit of a hangover, which is not something that is okay, but that was the scenario.
Right.
I think LSU beats Arkansas, but again, I think this is a tough matchup that is won in the trenches. I think LSU's front seven wins this game.
Yeah, I feel that.
Okay, so they're 4-0 with 3 really tough matchups to open the season.
For sure.
They go to Ole Miss. Thoughts here?
I think it's going to be a close game. I mean, we talk about quarterback rooms like with Texas and stuff. Like, this is another one where we don't really know who's going to come out. I mean, it's starting to point towards a couple different people. But whoever comes out of this quarterback room is going to be legit.
Yeah.
They get possibly the best running back in the country, and Quinshon Judkins back. They got weapons. They got a good defense. They have a great coach, obviously. I mean, Lord. To me, this is one of those coin toss games. I'm going to give LSU the win, but that's assuming they go to – I don't know. I'm going to give it to LSU in a freaking nail-biter.
I look at this game last year. LSU dominated this game.
Yeah.
They were the underdog.
Mm-hmm.
They were the underdog in this game. Ole Miss was
1.5 points. Yeah.
Yeah. Ole Miss was expected to win. Matter of fact, I think we both took Ole Miss to cover in that game last year. Yeah. Yeah, we locked Ole Miss to cover, and then they lost by 20.
Bet it and everything.
This is tricky because looking back at last year, my brain wants to tell me, hey, we both like Quinshon Judkins to go ball out, Zach Evans to ball out, and then LSU just kind of handled them. Whenever Harold Perkins was on the field, the game was different. Harold Perkins will be on the field for this game.
No, yeah.
Mekhi Wingo will still be on the field, and LSU adds Mason Smith back. So Ole Miss is going to have to come with a different game plan this year to beat this LSU team. I think they're going to rely more on whoever their quarterback ends up being and the weapons at receiver. Obviously, they lose Mingo. This game's tricky. I think if you're just looking at last year and how that game played out, you'd have to take LSU to win, probably by double digits. But I think this is just a trap game. After following Mississippi State and Arkansas, I think Ole Miss actually wins this game.
Really? Okay.
I think Ole Miss actually wins this game. So I think LSU is 4-1 going to Missouri.
Right.
And they win that game.
Yeah, me too.
So 5-1, they get Auburn at home. They get a little 2-game home stretch. They have Auburn and Army. I think they win both of those games.
Me too.
So I think they are 6-1, right? I believe, I think they're 6-1 going to Alabama on November 4th. This is the same day. What?
Go ahead.
Same day of that Washington and Oregon game, or Washington USC game.
Yeah, and they lose. I think they lose at Alabama this year. The only thing here's the key. I think they lose at Alabama because I think one of those quarterbacks is a baller. Wait, didn't they get a new guy? Who's their guy this year?
From Notre Dame. I'm blanking on his name.
Me too.
What's
Tyler?
Alabama?
Is it Buckner?
Tyler Buckner.
Yeah. Okay. No.
I like LSU in this game.
I don't know. Look what it took last year. Obviously, Alabama loses a whole lot. You know what? No, I like LSU too. I like LSU in this game. It's going to be tough to beat them at Bryant-Denny, but we'll see.
It's going to be tough to beat them at Bryant-Denny, but I think if you look at this game and you look at the matchups, you say, okay, Tyler Buckner's coming in. Is Tyler Buckner going to beat you in the pass game? No. Okay. Well, is Alabama going to beat you in the run game this year, given that LSU's got arguably one of the best front seven in the country and they lose Jahmyr Gibbs?
Yeah, probably not.
You see what I'm saying?
Right. Jace McClellan might have something to say about that.
Jace McClellan is the real deal.
Yeah.
He is the real deal, no doubt about that. But I think given the strengths of both teams, I think it's a really good matchup for LSU.
Right.
I think it's a really good matchup for LSU.
I can see that. Yeah, I'll take LSU in a close one. But again, it's a go-to Alabama and win. I'm not taking anybody by more than 7 points.
I think points are going to be a hot commodity in this game.
Yeah.
Because Alabama's got a fantastic defense. If for LSU to win this game, they're going to have to put up. I think they're going to have to score north of 14 points. I don't know if Alabama's going to do that. That's what I'm saying. I think this game is going to. I think points are going to be a hot commodity in this game.
Right.
I think it's going to be very low scoring.
Mm-hmm.
Last year's game was what? It ended up being 32-31. Yeah, it ended up being 32-31. I think this is going to be a much different game this year.
Okay. What about Florida?
I think LSU beats Florida at home.
Me too. And actually, I think they win these next 2 games too.
Yep. They have Georgia State and Texas A&M. They end the season with a 3-game home stretch versus Florida, Georgia State, Texas A&M.
You get over that Alabama hump with 1 loss, whether it's to Alabama, whether it's to Ole Miss, whether it's to Florida State. You get over that hump at Alabama, you're not going to drop Florida, Georgia State, or A&M. And if that's a 1 loss coming out of that, you're a playoff team. Or, well, you got it. Well,
you're in the SEC championship.
Yeah, you're winning the West.
Now, the difference is, I think if LSU has 1 loss not to Alabama, if they have 1 loss and a win over Alabama, they're in the SEC championship and won the West.
Yes.
If their 1 loss is to Alabama, then now you need Alabama to lose 2 SEC games, and I don't see that happening.
No, me either.
So I think here's the thing. I think the West is a competition between LSU and Alabama, and then there's the teams like Ole Miss, potentially Arkansas.
Who do you think is going to beat LSU?
I said Ole Miss.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I said Ole Miss, but I don't think Ole Miss is going to beat Alabama.
Right.
I don't think Ole Miss is going to beat Alabama, and really, I think Ole Miss could drop 2 games. We'll cover their schedule a different day.
Right. So LSU ends up 11-1. Is that right?
I have LSU 11-1 and in the SEC championship game again.
I can see that.
Yeah. But if your scenario is reality, where they're 11-1 with a loss to Alabama, I think Alabama's in the SEC championship game.
Yeah. I don't think they lose 2 SEC games.
Yeah.
I agree.
So that one's tricky. So we pretty much agreed on the scenarios between. I said USC was a 3-loss regular season team. You said they were a 2-loss regular season team, but we kind of agreed on how that would play out. We agreed that Florida State would both get through 11-1 and win the ACC.
Right.
This is tricky because we agree on the record, but different outcomes.
Right. I'm with you.
Well, you were about to say something.
No, go ahead. I'm good.
You got anything? Anything else?
No.
All right, so there's 3 teams, the Heisman candidates. We'll see how this season plays out. I'm excited. I can't wait to get to it. We need
the last month without football.
We need to talk about, and if you're an NFL fan, you got preseason coming up in fall camp.
Yeah.
We need to talk about Texas and Oklahoma, and then we should talk about some of those other teams as well. We're going to have to get to what?
Nothing.
We're going to have what?
Nothing, bro.
We're going to have to get to Oregon, Washington, Ole Miss, those kind of teams. Those will be in the next couple of weeks.
For sure.
Why are you laughing at me, dog?
I'm not laughing at you. I'll tell you when we get off there.
All right. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all that. It's at 10-second runoff.
Underscore on Twitter?
I think I took it off.
I think
everything's uniform.
Let's go, baby.
Yeah, please do that. We have awesome other podcasts here as well. We'll have we're located in Baton Rouge, so we will have a LSU sports show, not by us. It'll be by a different person. We have the Up and In show.
We're not biased, right?
Huh?
We're not biased.
I mean, I don't believe so. We do our best to be unbiased here. Yeah, we have the Up and In show hosted by Anthony Ronaldo. We have Bets and Breaks with lots of different hosts in that. So, definitely, if you're on this channel and watching our podcast, check out the other ones too. Thanks so much. See y'all next time.